And unfortunately also animals are lost to poaching. So this is in northern Kenya, and this has happened as a result of looking for cures by people for HIV/AIDS. I don't know about you, but you know, just like rhino horn, doesn't get me off, doesn't really get a lot of other people off, but it's just this misnomer, this misperception. And numbers have been sort of plummeting across the Maasai giraffe range in Africa. So, giraffe unfortunately on the IUCN Red List are listed as least concern. So least concern means that their numbers are fine. Don't need to worry about them, everything is going well. Unfortunately, this is something that's a bit of a mistake because we just haven't done the work, that's the bottom line. So for the last 5 years we've been working slowly as GCF and other partners to be able to figure out what's going on with their numbers across the range. About mid-year we actually submitted a proposal to the IUCN to be able to have them uplisted as one of the threatened categories. So hopefully in December we will be able to announce that they'll be listed as a threatened category and make a difference. Because you all know that elephants are endangered. Yep, we discussed this today. Elephants aren't endangered. They're actually called vulnerable, which is lesser category. Numbers of elephants in some areas are absolutely booming, but they're plummeting in others, and it needs to be looked at in that context. So we need to really get this right, and we need to be able to tell the world. And once we tell the world properly, and the IUCN support their uplisting, this will really make a difference for giraffe conservation and get everyone on board. Also CITES, which is the Convention of International Trade of Endangered Species. So recently in South Africa they had a big meeting, hell of a lot of money, hell of a lot of people coming and talking, and mostly around elephants and the trade of elephants. Giraffe are not on CITES, they're not listed as anything. There's assumed to be minimal or no trade of giraffe, but we're currently doing a study to assess if there is or not. So hopefully nothing too bad, we don't have to continue, because it is a bit of a political nightmare, the whole CITES. So GCF is an organisation, we're the only mob in the world that works across Africa on giraffe conservation. And this still amazes me to today. I think, you know, when I think of giraffe, they're absolutely amazing, and everyone we worked with around the world, yet no one's really taking the time to do anything about it. So it always amazes me that, you know, what we do is relatively unique. So currently we work in 14 countries. We provide a lot of support to governments, NGOs, researchers out there. We are a very small organisation, so it's myself, my wife, who's been working for many years on all of this stuff, and then we have an environmental education coordinator based in Windhoek in Namibia, who just does Namibia, and then we now have an East African giraffe coordinator in Nairobi. So it's the four of us working across the continent, and the best way to do it is through partnerships and be able to develop and support what's happening out in the field. One of the things that we do is we're the co-host of the IUCN SSC Giraffe and Okapi Specialist Group. So that's where we get our mates in there now, the World Giraffe Day. And this is a network of experts that have come together to be able to provide support and advice on conservation and management of giraffe in the wild. We do have some zoo people involved in it, which is great, who bring lots of good skills and capacity. And the group collectively was involved in developing the national, well not the national, the Red List assessment lately. So that's how we're all coming together. The Okapi work under the specialist group, we've also been able to do or list them as endangered in the last year, based on a national strategy. Well, it's a Okapi-wide strategy, but it's essentially a national strategy because they're only in DRC at the moment. But giraffe conservation is about everyone. It's about people coming together, people from across the continent working together for a common cause. Many of these organisations that we work with and support obviously don't do just purely giraffe, but they're connected in ranges where giraffe are. So what we try to do is embed support for giraffe conservation in those efforts. Very cool that you can take them across. We've hosted a number of what we call giraffe indabas. So an indaba, everyone from Disney knows what that is. You see it everywhere when you walk around. So an indaba is a meeting, people coming together, South African Zulu word. So what this is we've organised 3 indabas in Africa to be able to bring experts and interested people to come together and talk shop about giraffe. From our understanding, this was the first time things had happened in Africa, and they sort of went year in, year out with the giraffe herd conferences that were held here in America. So this is in, where was it? Namibia, and then in Kenya a couple of years ago, and last year we held in South Africa. So you can see the kids. I think that's the best indication of how they grow, and then you'll see it a little bit later. This is our East African Giraffe Coordinator, Arthur Muneza. Arthur has just finished his Masters at Michigan State University. Any Spartans here? So Arthur's a really... he's a clever chappie. He's a Rwandan refugee as a very young lad, and moved across with his family to Kenya and grew up in Kenya, and he's really just obviously exceptionally intelligent and driven, and we're lucky to have Arthur on board, and he's with us for the next 6 years, minimal, as a contract, and part of that is to do a PhD at the same time through Michigan State University. So we're able to support and raise the funds for him, focusing on giraffe conservation efforts in East Africa. You get to play with cool tools. So conservation is changing constantly, and what do we need to use to best effect? So, you know, the old days, we've just got a GPS, so I like to show this because this is what San Diego Zoo Global do. This is David O'Connor, who's a researcher at San Diego Zoo. So he's just boring, he's just got a GPS. This is all the money that goes into San Diego. But then there's drones, camera traps, and obviously bringing in the big guys to do GPS satellite tracking. We do a lot of stuff like that across the continent. And it's amazing how tools can help conservation when it's done in the right way. And we'll talk a lot about that over the next few slides. This is a lovely lady from northwest Namibia. This is a Himba lady, which is a semi-nomadic tribe of people. She is from a place called Puros, and we've been working closely with her over a few years to help set up a project which is to harvest in these hills behind and around a plant product which is called myrrh from the Bible, myrrh and frankincense. So what it does, it's a very aromatic plant product, and we've helped set up a market with some partners to be able to sustainably collect and sell this internationally. And L'Oreal is the biggest buyer at the moment in France, and obviously use it in many of their products, and as a result, her and her family around are not interested in poaching because they get enough funding and support from activities like this, which is brilliant. And that's how conservation really works on the ground. We do a lot of education awareness materials. So these are the brand new, if anyone's seen posters that we as GCF has developed, it's all free online, accessible. If you want high resolution stuff, you can just send us an email and we'll send it to you. But we've had a conservation guide, which she's holding there. So this is the new look of the conservation guide, and that will be coming up on the website near you very soon. We've decided to update everything based on some recent work that we've been doing. And updated a whole bunch of posters. So this is a Namibia specific poster about the numbers, where they are in the country, and it was supported locally by a bank in Namibia. And what's that great for us is being able to share that with everyone in Namibia. So it's not very generic, and we've just done a Kenyan one as well, which is going out into all the national parks around Kenya. So this is really valuable to us, in all honesty, because they reckon about, we heard this, Karen, the other day, about 1/10 of all people in the world or something visit zoos. And so zoos are a massive place to be able to get information awareness out there. You guys are the backbone of this. So if we can provide the right up-to-date information, then you'll be able to tell the community what's going on. And by that we can all learn. World Giraffe Day, something that some people may have heard of. 21st of June, and why is it 21st of June?
It's the longest day of the year.
Yeah, no, it's not all about you Americans.
Longest night.
Longest night. So us from the southern hemisphere, you know, we just like to sleep longer. But it is the longest day for the tallest giraffe, and I think it's a great sort of publicity, marketing link to it, and it's been a valuable tool. And World Giraffe Day, which we'll talk a little bit about more later, is about you guys, about the keepers of the world who basically came together and got support for giraffe maybe you didn't have as better outlet before that around the elephants did and lions did, but really World Giraffe Day it just seemed to work really well. So we can't thank you guys enough to be able to get the information about giraffe and what's going on out there. So this year we raised some support also for an environmental education program in Namibia, which we'll discuss a little bit later, as well as a reticulated giraffe project in northern Kenya. And interestingly, I don't have much on it now, but we'll keep sharing it. But in the last couple of days I had a meeting with Save the Elephants. Have you heard of them? Quite big guys around the world. So they are super keen on joining us in being able to do now a whole database of giraffe conservation across the northern Kenya, and including the Northern Rangeland Trust, Lewa and partners. So this is really exciting. That's grown out of World Giraffe Day. They've seen this partnership to form. And then there was a photo competition, which is always cool, it's nice, it's cute, and people are on Instagram, and I'm not, but I believe we are as an organisation. And the photo at the beginning, after the roaring giraffe, that was one of the photos that came in, from a guy from Iran who had taken a photo in Kenya. It's just nice that the spread that's gone out there. Recently we produced a strategic framework for conservation. This is something that came out of IUCN meetings. And what we've done is we've put it together. It's available free online to what we think should go forward for giraffe conservation in Africa if we're going to make a difference. So if you're interested at all, go online, download it, have a read. It doesn't go into detail because that's the decision of the governments, what they go into detail, but we use this as a backbone when we talk with governments and other partners. So, has anyone seen anything about species lately? There's been a bit of rumours that there's some 4 giraffe species out there. Anyone watch The Late Show with Stephen Colbert? So he was talking about this. Very concerned what he's going to say to his kid. Because he said, it's my favourite animal is the giraffe. And he's like, well, which one now? So he was very concerned. But it's amazing that it reached popular media. So why and how do you sort of collect data to figure out if there's 4 species or not?
Time is running out, and Julian knows we urgently need to take our understanding of giraffes to a new level. He has a revolutionary theory, that there's not just one species of giraffe divided into slightly different subspecies, but there are instead many unique species. If Julian knows how many species there are, he can see which are most in trouble and take immediate action to save them. But only by analysing the genes inside the giraffe can Julian prove how different they are. To do this, he's been taking samples of their skin and testing their DNA. The information inside tiny plugs of skin like this could give Julian the power to save whole species we didn't even know existed. Julian has got the DNA from almost every wild giraffe population in Africa.
I'm going to go back 1 second because I only noticed it today when it was playing. Oh, no, that's really boring. But we'll get into that in a minute.
Is running out.
I don't know how to make it
Julian
go
knows
fast
we
forward.
urgently need to take our understanding of giraffes to a new level.
Presentation. And then it should give you.
Doesn't matter, let's move forward. I'll figure out that another day. But it says Giraffe Mobile written on the back of the car. Someone has actually taken it, or with their finger and written it. I've never noticed it before today when we were watching it. Anyway.
He's saying puppies and giraffe mobiles.
Yeah. So collecting that DNA sample has been something that came out of work that was done in the zoo community to figure out where your zoos all came from, or your zoo animals came from. Are they interbred or not? And then should you be hybridizing, should you be mixing or not, and hopefully set a plan for AZA animals. So they figured that out a few years ago, and then the whole project sort of stopped as a result of that. So we decided to continue it because we really wanted to figure out what was happening with those animals being translated or translocated all across the country, or all across Africa really. So we decided to continue. It's been about 10 years worth of sort of sampling across the continent to collect all of those samples to date, which produces something like that. Does anyone do any genetics work? No. It's really complex and comes up with pretty pictures. And I was telling everyone today, we know it's about giraffe because it's got a giraffe at the bottom here. That's about as much as I figure out with this. But what we've come up with is this. We've come up